Gina, just to let you know, Sarah's not going to be here tonight. I don't know if you got that message or not. So,
I didn't. Okay.
Okay, just to give you a heads up.
Sure.
For the record, we're recording.
Okay, all right. Let's call the meeting to order. It is 5:31. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
I have none.
I just have a question, Jamie. The email that Jake Hemrick sent about the 3-acre stormwater permit, is that similar to the stormwater issue that we've been dealing with?
It's all one and the same.
It's all one and the same?
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't need to necessarily add that to the agenda at this point.
No, that's part of the parking lot list. It's
Okay.
It's ongoing.
Okay, all right. Well, that's what I figured, but I wasn't quite sure. So, just so you know, Jake Hemrick, counselor from Berry City, had sent something about the stormwater piece, not knowing that Jamie and the facility committee had been working on it, and we've been alerted for about a year, Jamie, at least.
It's been several years, actually.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, several years.
Been on my radar for several years.
Okay, all right.
This is the piece where you figure out a way to deal with all your stormwater, or else the state charges you a fee per square foot or acre or something along those lines.
Yeah. Any kind of storm water runoff, whether it's from the roof, from the parking lots, any kind of impervious land.
Right.
If you have 3 acres or more of it, which our schools do.
Right.
So things that we're talking about, I'll just quickly touch base where I'm at. We're kind of in a holding pattern as far as Berry City Elementary being the newest school. They're on the list with the state for stormwater permit. Berrytown and Spalding is old enough where that's not necessarily on the books, but their time is coming as well. The last communication I've had with our engineering folks is that they're now in the process to do a feasibility study. Start studying what the land is, what the building is, what conceptually could be done to capture the stormwater, put some type of budget number to it. So that's the next stage that we're at. So I'm got to reach out to them again and see, where they are ready to start beginning that process. They may have, and they're just in the midst of it.
Okay.
So
I just wanted to clarify that. I didn't know whether it was a whole separate issue. So good. All right. So it's in the parking lot.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to document this discussion under other business.
Okay.
Because we're under add additions. Now, I didn't know, should I just put in that that you made an inquiry based on a letter received from legal counsel, or I don't know who this person is or how to spell their name. So I don't want to put it wrong in the
Jake Hemrick is a city councilor in Berry City.
Okay. Did you say Jay or Jake?
Jake, Jake.
Okay. His last name?
I believe it's Hemmerich.
Okay.
Yes, you're correct.
So he sent an email or something?
Yeah, he just sent an email about, did we know about the stormwater issue, blah, blah, blah. I think it came across his radar. And so my question to Jamie, because if it was a different issue, I was going to add it to the agenda tonight.
Right.
It's not a different issue. So we can put it under other business that we discussed it.
Yeah, and now I understand enough to maybe write something that makes a little sense in the minutes.
All right, as you always do. All right, I don't see any public, but is there any public around? Anybody? No? Okay. Andrew sent out the minutes. Have any problems with them, Gina?
No, I did read through them. I wasn't at that meeting, so I don't have any corrections or comments.
I don't have any corrections either, so we'll move them. Okay, how's that?
Sounds good.
So Gina moved, and you're seconding, Guy?
Yeah, and we're both applying you.
Okay.
I as well.
So under new business, I didn't get a chance to attend the finance committee meeting, and I didn't get a chance to read the minutes today. So, and Sarah sent an email and said she couldn't be here, but she said Jamie was at the finance committee meeting, and so probably could update us about the discussion. So I know that there's a question about what, if any, of the money we're going to be able to spend, within what authority, blah, blah, blah. So, I know that that's on the table, but I'm not quite sure what the final, if there has been a final decision yet.
So the first quick answer is no final decision. There was discussion about, there's somewhere in the area of three point something million dollars to use. And a couple community members as well was in that meeting. Again, voiced their vote that a lot of that money should be returned back to the voters. So that was brought up again, discussed again. But it was, and Gina, you were there for a big part of it. A big focus was to talk about where to direct that money. Some of it towards facilities, some towards spending down the note for the new C building, and then some others. I'm not going to remember all of it, but direct it towards some type of reserve fund. That's about how I remember the gist of it. And then we did spend quite a bit of time, because I was in the meeting, about if some of it was directed towards facility use, where would it go? And I shared my recommendation that to use it towards a sprinkler system for Spalding High School. Many reasons why, but mainly is that all of our other school buildings are sprinkled. And if we're really focusing on equity across the whole school district, in all areas, whether education, facilities, everything, Spalding is not sprinkled. It's the oldest building, it's the largest building. So we discussed that at quite length. Nobody really disputed the need to do it. It's not anything to get real excited over. It's nothing. There's no frills, no shiny paint, no things like that. But it's just, in my opinion, just good common sense to protect people, protect the property. So we discussed that quite a bit at length. At one point, I shared that if for whatever reason, if that recommendation didn't fall through, what would my plan B be? My next thought was suggestion is the remaining roofs for Berry City and Berry Town, as well as, if the money was there, is to start replacing the parking lot driveways at Berry City Elementary. That would be my plan B. So folks on the committee, I don't think anybody disputed it at all. They were all in agreement. It's a wise place to put that money. I think the next round of discussions is going to be, are we required to put a sprinkler system in? There was some discussion about, we had a waiver that was granted to us, by the state. Yes, that is true, but there also was large discussions with the Vermont Prevention Fire Office, with the local fire marshals, that we must put this in at any point we do any kind of major modifications. So there's two sides to that coin, that story. So nothing was decided at the meeting, but there was very strong support at that time, at that committee level, for the sprinkler system. So nothing was decided.
So Jamie, let me ask a devil's advocate question. Because I remember, doing the site visit with fire marshals, everybody was getting all hyped up about the potential cost of a sprinkler system. I remember getting the waiver. I think we still have the waiver documented somewhere.
Yeah. I have it right here.
And in addition to the waiver, I believe they made us do some additional things like fire rated doors and, different alarms. And so let me play devil's advocate. If we're not doing any major modifications, and to my knowledge, I don't think we are, unless all of a sudden, well, I don't know what's going to happen with the tech center, but I suppose if the tech center wanted to move into a bigger part of the high school, and I don't know if that's the case or not because I haven't seen the study, that might that might trigger a major modification.
Yeah.
But I don't see a major modification on the radar. In fact, we've gotten smaller as a school, right?
Well, so let me share some thoughts and some potentials. So I put a call in to the new regional manager for the Vermont Fire Prevention Office, playing phone tag. I think he may be on vacation or something. So, but I have the call in to ask just that question: what would constitute a major modification? But here's my thoughts on that. We sometime, I think, fairly near future, we're going to do some type of major upgrade to the auditorium. Would that be considered a major modification? As well, I know you're aware of these ESSER funds, and we have several millions of dollars to use across the district, and Spalding being one of them is upgrading our ventilation system. Upgrading the ventilation system, is that considered a major modification? That right there, it ties our hands. And with millions of dollars of ESSER funds allowing us to upgrade our ventilation system, we can't do that because we don't have a sprinkler system. It was very bluntly told to us, any major modifications, you must sprinkle that building. So let's, in the ESSER fund money, at a minimum, it's next summer before we do any kind of work. But if we start directing these funds, these surplus funds to, whatever purposes, and they're all going to be good purposes. But let's say we defend, we push these monies to other reasons other than sprinkler system. Then we're granted these millions of dollars to upgrade our ventilation system. Well, sorry guys, you can't use all this free money to put in the upgraded ventilation because you don't have a sprinkler system. It's going to tie our hands.
Well, it's going to be. I mean, I guess I would.
It may tie our hands.
I would involve legal counsel before we go there. I mean, I'm just off listening to the whole tax debate in Barrytown in terms of the grievances and stuff. And basically the rule of thumb there is if you do a modification within your existing house, there's not a darn thing that anybody can do about it at this point. But if you're putting anything new outside the building, and if you don't have permits and stuff, yeah, you're going to get your hands slapped. But if you're replacing a heating and ventilation system that's already there, but you're upgrading it, I guess my interpretation is that wouldn't be a. You know why I'm going there, Jamie? And I'm going to tell you why. Because they went to the effort of granting us a waiver, and I think they were right to do that. The problem I have with the sprinkler system, quite frankly, is at the end of the day, it might in fact do more damage to a building that is all basically concrete and brick, if you have a fire. Now, maybe the new systems can isolate it,
Yeah, so let me just add to right there. Just so when a sprinkler system goes off, it's not the entire building. It's the actual sprinkler head that's affected. So let's say you have a science room that's 30 by 30, 40 by 40, whatever the size is. You've got 6, 7, 8, 10 sprinkler heads in there. Whatever that root cause is, that fire source, that heat source, underneath that sprinkler head or underneath that 2 or 3 sprinkler heads, those are the ones that go off. It's not the whole room. It's not the whole wing or the whole building. So I guess to clear up maybe that confusion.
Yeah. But you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean,
I do.
They end up doing more damage than, you might have a huge fire, but all of a sudden you've lost 100 computers in a room.
Yeah. Well, then again, that's why we have insurance. The insurance is going to be happy to know that we had a fully functioning sprinkler system that protected the whole building and or many, many lives. Well,
it sounds like, there's a couple of decisions to be made. We don't even know whether we could do this yet.
Yeah.
So, Gina.
So, Guy, I share your mixed feelings about a sprinkler system. My building is sprinkled, and it's a serious pain in the ass. I agree with you that if it ever went off, it would probably cause more damage than good. And also, it does absolutely nothing for my insurance premiums, which is an argument I have with them all the time. But yeah, you have to have this. Anyway. But, I think that from a safety standard point, we are going to end up there. And what we have right now is the funds to do it. So I don't have an issue with that as being a potential project for those funds. And as Jamie sort of intimated, and I will confirm, I mean, everything is still very much up in the air because frankly, the decisions we can make are still a little bit unclear. And we received pretty clear messaging that we need more input from the community about what we should do with that extra money. I just wanted to interject briefly. I was reading through the minutes from the last meeting, particularly around the discussion around Barry Town School and keys and keypads and overhauling lock systems and creating basically a standardized entrance system that can be controlled and tracked. And I think that might be worthy of exploration too for these funds. Jamie, I know you mentioned in there it was a very expensive endeavor, and I don't know how expensive it is. I don't know if that's like $20,000 or $200,000. But again, I think any member of the community would be hard pressed to argue with us making safety upgrades to the school, and Sprinkle certainly falls into that category. And standardizing and making the door entry system at Barry Town or any of the schools safer and easier to track and control, I think also falls in there as well. So I apologize for missing that discussion. I don't mean to pull us back in that direction now, but I did want to just lodge that opinion while we were on the topic.
Well, it's certainly something that goes on the list, and it was on Jamie's radar. Here's I mean, without having heard the discussion, but having read the article in terms of the conundrum we might be in, I'm kind of guessing that at some point we're probably going to put together a ballot item that says, will you? Well, I think one of two things. We're either going to consider that revenue and we're going to make the decision, or we're going to ask the community to spend it in X, Y, Z based on some recommendations. That's my guess. I don't know whether I'm right about that or not. My guess is we're going to get criticized either way. Except if the voters, weigh in on it, then there may be less criticism. I don't know.
Well, I also think if it does come to a vote and that's the route that we choose or pushed into, again, that does seem to be a little bit up in the air as well. I think that it's going to be an easier sell if there is something happening at all of the schools of some size. I think that and I don't agree with this point of view, but what we've seen is that some voters have an issue approving projects if they feel like it's their money going somewhere else or it's not going to be benefiting their kids. And so if we're able to find safety improvement projects at some level in each of the buildings that we put into that type of measure, I think that could actually really work in our favor.
Yes, Andrea.
So one of the things that we briefly talked about at the Finance Committee meeting was that voters normally do not ever vote on, unless they're voting for a bond for a specific project, voters only approve an amount of money. And it's up to the administrators and the board as to how that gets spent. So you have a line item budget. A lot of times monies get shifted because say you don't hire some staff, but all of a sudden, you have some other emergency or something else that has to be used for. The administrators and the board move the money where they need to move it. They're not held to the line item budget that the voters approved. The voters are only approving the total amount of the budget. So I don't think the voters can even tell you what specific projects that the surplus has to go for. But you could ask them, do you want it in the capital campaign? Do you want it in the tax stabilization fund? But I don't think that the voters vote on specific projects other than the bond for the C project.
So Andrea, I don't disagree with you, but I think the conundrum is a couple things. One is the legal piece about what some other districts have done in terms of, and I can't remember the correct language, but language that says any money left over becomes revenue the next year. apparently we have not included that language in our, whatever votes we have done. So that's one legal opinion.
That's funny that you've mentioned that, because years ago, and I've been thinking about going back to look at the minutes, but I haven't had the time. This goes back to the John Bacon days. And unless the law has changed, I remember that Dr. Bacon said something about, and I don't remember, so don't quote me, but it was something about like if the monies aren't, by the time the monies are audited, if they haven't been earmarked, they must be used to support your next year's budget. It was something like that. But I haven't gone back to dig out the minutes. But I think that's why there used to be discussion of what you want to do with the money before it becomes audited. Because once it became audited, I know there were changes between before an audit and after an audit. But I don't have that documentation in my hand right now. And the laws could have changed. I don't know.
Well,
there is something about that.
Yeah, there's two legal opinions out there, I think, right now. But the other conundrum is, and you may very well be right, when there's a $100,000 or a $500,000, fund. But the problem is that the cat's already out of the bag. It's not 100,000. It's not 500,000. It's 3 point something million, and that's getting people all haired up. There's a lot of moving parts here. So I guess what I would say, I think I agree with you, Andrea, that we should have a discussion in terms of what the priorities would be. I mean, Jamie did list out a number of things that needed to be done. And what you're saying, Jamie, is that your priority would be the sprinkler system first.
Yep.
The roof second.
Yep.
And where would the locks come in on that? In what order?
The locks at Berrytown School.
Or does that fall under the federal fund discussion?
The lock system for Berrytown School?
Yeah.
That wouldn't qualify under the ESSER funds. The ESSER funds, as I know it, and Lisa could speak to it a whole lot better, but as I understand it, it's primarily for ventilation, the upgrades to your ventilation to your buildings, and it does fall into some other smaller grayer areas, but that's the main focus of what these monies are for. And there's a term, how do you prepare, how do you prevent, and how do you respond to COVID or variant or whatever the issues are. Ventilation is the quick, easy one because it's an airborne virus. So upgrading a ventilation system, that's going to help prepare, prevent, respond to it. So with those three focuses, that makes it much more strict what it can be used for. And again, that's about as far as I could really explain that. Lisa could explain a whole lot more on it. So
the sprinkler system doesn't fall under the ESSER funds either?
No, I asked Lisa that before too. I got all excited. I said, well, Lisa, what about sprinklers? Can that go under ESSER?
Yeah.
And she said, well, so how would we explain? How would that help us to prepare, prevent, respond to COVID events? You can't. A sprinkler system has nothing to do with preventing an airborne virus.
Well, I guess the other big question is, if you were to take a look at those three particular projects, what's the price tag on them? Because I think that's another question.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll throw out there is that do we still have a ballot item on the roof fund, right?
Ballot item on the roof fund.
Yeah. Have we had a separate ballot item on the roof funds for a number of years?
We did in the past, but then I believe that went away when we started earmarking. Well, Spalding High School started first. They started growing their construction fund.
Okay.
For that $1 square foot, and then the Berry City, Berrytown started following suit after. So because we increased the money annually in the regular operating budget, we didn't have that roof fund anymore. And the thought was, if I remember correctly, by putting that special article in for a roof fund, if it got denied, not passed, then you weren't putting anything into the roof fund. But we felt by putting the larger money into the construction capital projects, you always had money every year.
All right. So I guess it's a, it's a bigger discussion. I guess what I would ask you, Jamie, in terms of the roof, while I know it's a huge ticket item, but I also know you've done a great job keeping up with it. So does finishing the roofs, put off something that might be more important, in terms of,
So I'm going to answer that quickly by saying doing the rest of the roofs is a bit manageable by the way we've been doing it over the last few years. We can do sections at a time.
Yeah.
The sprinkler project is going to be in that $1 million range, a little under, a little over. Back in 2016, the last figure was going to be $850,000 plus or minus. Back in 2016 to do that sprinkler system at the high school. So with COVID, inflation, and all that, it's probably pretty safe to say it's in that $1 million range, plus or minus. So years, let's say we go 2, 3, 4 years down the road, whatever trigger gets pulled. Okay, Swelling High School, you will, you shall, you must put in a sprinkler system. We've now spent these monies on other good projects. How are we gonna find $1 million plus in a regular operating budget? You're now talking a bond. So, and I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't, being very, very strong on proposing that we should do the sprinkler system because we have that large amount of money. The roofing project, yes, I would love to do that as well, but if I have to pick and choose, I pick the sprinkler project because one, it's going to have to be done. I have no doubt in my mind it's going to have to happen. Two is we have the money to do it, to pay for it in full. It's going to be a major, major hardship on our school budget years down the road to now find that money. Whereas the roof, we can do it in sections. The paving could do that in sections as well. But, I, as your facilities director, my main focus is, the bigger, larger, major projects, and whittle your way down. And this one happens to involve safety as well. So I'm going to have a very hard time, choosing anything else other than sprinkler. But it's not my sole decision. I'm just, as your facilities director, I'm proposing it.
okay. Let me throw one more thing out because I had a Hannaford's conversation with Mr. Roos, and he was asking me. Apparently, he had. Were you at that meeting that he held where there was? I'm not quite sure who showed up. They were discussing the track expansion.
Yeah, it was myself, Brenda, Chris Hennessy, and Eddie Roos.
Yeah. So he's ready to, and again, I know Ed a little bit, but I don't know him well enough to know whether he can raise the amount of money that's needed to, to make that happen. Stop smiling.
I was smiling at Gina's little boy.
Oh, I see. Yeah. But what he hinted at is it would be good to have some seed money, to get that thing all charged up. I don't know how you feel about that. I don't know where your heads are at about that. I know that particular facility is, totally out of, and it's probably, I don't even know. Can we even host a track meet anymore?
Not a state sanctioned one, no. Just a local school track meet.
Yeah. So I just want to throw that out there. I thought you had gone to the meeting, so I don't know what the administrators thoughts are about that. But I think if we had some money that we could throw at them, it might, at some point we might want to invite Ed to give the facility committee an update or a heads up in terms of what he's thinking.
Yeah. I want to do everything, you know.
Well, yeah.
I want to do them all. But you know, when I screw my head on tight, you know, I go for the bigger ones first. You know, when it comes to safety and the shell of the building, it's roofs, it's sprinkler system, it's fire alarm, you know, all those major big ticket items that you can't get excited over. You know, the nuts and bolts that keeps the building running and keeps the people safe. So you know, at this moment, that's what I'm pitching is sprinkler system.
Let's ask the kids what they think. So Gina, you want to add anything else to that?
Sorry, guy, you asked the kids what he thinks. This is what he thinks.
And I also want to, you know, draw on your experience at having been at the meeting. So, I mean, I'm not sure how much further we can go on with the discussion, except at some point.
Were you asking me a question? Hey, Robin.
Yeah. Come on, boys, like. Come on, this way.
That was the baby tackling the toddler.
Oh.
I know he's a real bruiser. Sorry, guy. What was your question?
You know, I just want to draw on your experience of having been at the, you know, at the.
So this is what I think. I mean, I think that it's hard to make any decisions right now because our ultimate course of action is really up in the air. We're getting a lot of pressure. We're getting a lot of pressure from the community to return money to the voters, despite what people from the community think. Our only mechanism for doing that is through the tax stabilization fund. We can't send people checks in the mail, but I don't know if we said it so clearly, but that's where we're at. And so I think that, and I'm also hearing different numbers. So the last I knew it was 2.9. Guy, you just said something like 3 point something.
Well, so, that's the figure I've heard, but.
Sure. So I think,
it's 3.2 million.
3.2?
Yep.
Cool. So I think, Jamie, you've made a good argument and a good case for the sprinkler system being the primary use of those funds in terms of facilities. It seems to me that there's room and need for us to have 3 or 4 smaller projects in the $50,000 to $100,000 range. You know, maybe they don't have to be done right now, but that we could have kind of in our back pocket to expand into if we have more funds. Because I think that ultimately, I don't know where it's going to end up. It's so hard to talk about theoretically. Right now, we've said, okay, should we put $800,000 into the tax stabilization fund? So the question is, well, if we have an additional $400,000, is it going to get shuffled there, or are we going to be able to put it towards facilities? That's kind of my best recommendation for the moment. I don't know, and I think on Andrea, what you were saying about the audit, you know, that's a good point as well. So we're trying to kind of play theoretical with funds that we don't really know exist in terms of being available to us in the end. It's really tough to do. So I think that under those circumstances, Jamie has done the best job possible in terms of saying, this is where I would spend that money. Were you to give me $1.1 million, this is what I would do.
If I could add, I'll add just maybe 2 more comments to the sprinkler discussion, and then I guess I'm done pitching my pitch. One is toward the end of the finance meeting too, I think it kind of got brought up, so I went off with it and I said, well, if the finance committee or school board member said to me, you know, Jamie, as a facilities director, if we said to you, we're going to direct this whole surplus to you for facilities, you know, could you use it? Yeah, absolutely. I could spend all 3 point whatever million dollars on all fantastic projects. You know, we do the sprinkler system, we could do the roofs, we do the parking lot. So if the easy ticket is, you know what, you could never go wrong with spending money on facilities. And, you know, our buildings are in very, very good shape. But at the same time, they're old buildings. They still need some love. So if that 3 point whatever million dollars was directed all for facilities, it would be used in fantastic ways. So it would not be money wasted. It's going to save the taxpayers money, you know, in the long run, because we're going to do projects sooner than later. It's going to cost more later, you know, wear and tear is more, so on and so on. And then the other thing I just want to make the last comment is, and I think I brought this up towards the tail end of the finance meeting, it just totally slipped my mind. We did have a fire in that building 5-6 years ago, if you remember, in the science room. So it has happened, it can happen. God forbid, hope it never happens again. I and Brenda were 2 of the 3 people that were involved in that little fiasco. So, and I started thinking more about it after I mentioned it after the meeting. That happened during the summer when it was just a very small group of summer school kids in that building. What if that happened during a school day? It could have been potentially so much worse. You know, we could have potentially sent 30, 40, 50, 60 kids between those 2 science rooms that adjoin that chemistry storage room to the hospital to get tested and checked out. What kind of horrible publicity would that have been? How would we have looked at that point, you know, to the community? Oh my God, our poor students, you know, it could have been so much worse. So, yeah, we avoided that bullet, but we could not have. You know, it was me, Brenda, and another staff member, as well as, you know, a handful of firefighters and paramedics that got sent to the hospital. You know, we got scrubbed down out in the parking lot. We got sent into the hospital and scrubbed down and poked and prodded. I mean, it was an invasion of, you know, of us, of our bodies, you know, and Brenda and I tell the story and we kind of laugh about it a little bit, but that could have been 50, 60 students and some teachers, and it could have been a whole lot worse if it was during the school year or if it happened on the weekend. You know, we were there to address it and call the fire department. It could have been a whole lot worse if no one was there as well. So it has happened, and let's hope it never does again, but it could happen again. So.
And Jamie, I think that what you said first there, you know, that these are projects that will happen either now or in the future. This isn't the federal government reaching the end of a fiscal year and spending money because if they don't spend it, they're going to lose it. So they're just buying shit. These are things that need to happen. So we can either use extra funding now and have it have zero budget impact, or it's going to be built into a future budget or a bond or something like that. But all of that is actual expense to the school district. And I think that that's a really, you know, compelling argument. And I think that, you know, that the sprinkler system really shouldn't be framed as an option. I mean, I think you're being very transparent about where we're at and the fact that we have a waiver, but, you know, I think that we should consider that waiver to be expiring with the work that, if not this year, then in the next 3 or 4 years. And so we can either be backed into a corner, have to do that work and figure out how to pay for it, or we can get in front of it.
Yeah. And for as many people that are going to complain, oh, you don't need to do a sprinkler system, we should do something else. Then not if, but when we are forced to then finally do it, you're going to have that other half or more people saying, why didn't you do that sprinkler system when you had the chance? You know, now that is being brought up, it's going to be on record that we discussed it and we chose not to do it. So you're going to have that many people or more saying you had the money. Now you're asking for a bond. I'm mad about it. So no, I'm not going to vote to give you that money for the bond. So we could go on and on, but yeah. So there's my
Jamie, I appreciate that. That's also my takeaway. And when we get some clarity about, you know, how we can use the money, then you know, we'll go forward. I like the argument that, you know, pay it now because you're going to have to pay it later and there's not an impact. And, you know, the other thing that would help us is if the tax bills were already out, you know, get that issue out of the way, you know. But all right, anything else on that? I think we probably beat that one to death.
No, but I just also want to confirm that tax bills aren't.
I have my tax bill. It came. It only went up. Mine came last week, and it only went up like, I think 40. Was it 40 a quarter? 40 or 80 a quarter. It wasn't bad. I was thinking,
how did you get your
tax bill?
They haven't set the rates yet, have they?
No, they haven't set the tax rate yet.
I have my bill. I already photocopied it to put in my tax folder.
Huh, interesting. Well, congratulations.
Gee, thanks.
Well, the water
City, not Berry Town.
Oh, Berry City. Oh, yeah. No.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I sold my Berry Town property.
Reappraisal.
Okay, no, I sold my Berry Town property last year, so I just have the Berry City one now.
Yeah, no, Berry Towns is not out yet, but I think that would have a huge impact in terms of how people feel. Would have a little bit of an impact. I don't know if it's a huge or not. You know, we'll see what happens. The discussion will go on. So, Jamie, the use of federal funds. What you're saying is we still don't have clarity about how much we're going to have and what we can use it for.
I think Lisa has a little bit more clarity about the dollar amount. I'm going to wing it and say it somewhere. I want to say it's 4 or 5 million. Like say, don't quote me, but I think it's somewhere in that range, across the district. So we've begun, I sat down with Lisa and Joe Kill, and we started discussing the steps we have to do. We have to, and I got to find my paperwork so I can try to say it correctly here. We have to apply for concept approval to the AOE. Here's what we propose we want to do, and here is the ballpark figure of what that said project is going to cost. So right now we know that the primary focus is upgrading the ventilation in our buildings. And I always like to remind folks, our ventilation system in all of our buildings is fully functioning. Nothing's deficient, nothing not working. It's working the best that it was designed to on day one. So it's fully functioning and doing its job. But does it meet today's standards? No, it doesn't. And obviously with COVID, it's the standards are much higher than what our buildings are acceptable to be used. So I have reached out to a mechanical contractor to help us put a ballpark figure to what it would take to upgrade the ventilation. So we stood in the parking lot with a couple of mechanical contractors at the high school, and we talked about what it has now, and kind of water fountain discussion about how could it be upgraded. So we kind of had that discussion. We're now going to meet, I believe it's sometime next week, for Berry City School to discuss that system. Berry Town has a little bit of a better system because they have air conditioning as well. But again, that wouldn't meet today's standards, by today's code. So what would it take to upgrade that system there? So we have to put some, crude numbers together, put it in our application to get that concept approval. More than likely, we do a decent job at it. They're not going to deny it. They then give you the approval to go further, or to get project approval. At that point, that's when you can start, putting things out to bid and get harder numbers. So we're in the, crafting that stage right now for ESSER monies. Are there other areas other than ventilation upgrade? There is. The administrators of each building has pitched other areas that they would like to try to use that money for. And I don't want to say the only couple that come to mind, because I don't want to leave out any of the other ones that are important as well to the other schools. But the administrators of all three schools have also pitched, other things as well.
Can you give us an example without naming the school?
Well, it's going to be obvious if I mention it.
Okay.
but it's to improve and create some other programs, physically outside of the building, because that's part of the kind of the prepare, prevent, respond. If we have another instance where we need to get outdoors more, or if we're shutting up the buildings, to do more teaching outside, some of these programs that they want to create needs, equipment and space and land and things like that to do it. So in general, that's a lot of what some of the administrators are asking for. And for the few that I've heard, I think they're great programs to create. So we have a lot of homework to do to get that concept approval.
Okay.
On top of dealing with COVID and this variant and whatnot that seems to be coming back. But
So I want to go back to I know this doesn't perhaps fit into the federal funding, but I just want to make sure that Gina made note of the the lock of the system at Berry Town, and that don't lose the priority of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Gina, you got anything else on those ESSER funds, or no?
Nope,
Okay.
that's great. Thanks.
Summer project update. Why don't we start with C, since
Yep.
a little water would be nice tonight.
Yeah. So the C building, they had their inspection, their certificate of occupancy inspection yesterday. They got a conditional one. And the only one condition that the state fire marshal found was one room somehow inadvertently got missed a horn strobe for the fire alarm system. So it's a very minor device to be installed. Aside from that, the building got a full green card inspection. Fire alarm system is functional, the sprinkler system functional, heating, cooling, the power, water, everything, everything passed inspection. So, that's fantastic news. That means we can start moving furniture in, start, trying to put the building together ready for October 30th. So we got the inspections. That was great. So what's left to do? The phone system needs to be finished being installed, up and running, programmed. The card access system for the entry doors, needs to be programmed. We've got to get the cards programmed for all the teachers, staff. We've got to get our furniture, what furniture was good, that's reusable from the Wall Street complex, get that furniture moved. We've placed a very large order through a couple different vendors for new furniture, bookshelves, desk, chairs, all the equipment for the kitchen, tables and chairs for the cafeteria seating, just, on and on. We've placed all of that, and it's trickling in. Like everything else, I'm sure you're all aware, you order something, you might get it in a couple of days, you might get it in 6 to 8 weeks. So will we have enough furniture to open up the doors? We will. We already have the new desk and chairs for the students. The teachers still have a lot of their desk and chairs that were still in good shape from before. Some of the new furniture will be in time to put that in their classrooms. Will they have all their bookcases? No, they won't. Will some of the chairs maybe not be in for their teacher for their stand-up desk or something? No, it probably won't. So there is going to be some loose ends with furniture, but not enough where we can't open the doors and have class.
So, Jamie, did I hear you correctly? October 30th?
If I said October, I meant to say August. Sorry.
Okay, all right. I just
sorry. Yeah. August 30th, the first day of school.
Well, actually, that brings up another an interesting question. When is the contract up with Wall Street?
It's already been expired. That contract is been over for a while.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
We have, I don't know, 90% of our stuff, out of there. We threw away a lot of the old junky furniture, a lot of the junk. We got a Casella dumpster there, and the guys went over a couple of days, cut up all the scrap metal, whatnot, got that out of there first, so we didn't put that in the dumpster. And so we've hoed out Wall Street pretty well.
Okay.
I have movers on the schedule for August 25th and 26th. That's as soon as I could get them. I was lucky to get them that soon to move what good furniture we have from Wall Street up to the new building. The paving, they're doing the final paving of the parking lot this Friday, which is good because it'll allow it to sit for the weekend and harden up a bit. But right now, if we were to go there, say tomorrow, there's still painters there doing a lot of touch up. Electricians are there still doing a lot of last minute everything. So essentially, like say August 30th, the building will be put together, decent. They can hold classes. There are going to be a lot of loose ends still to deal with, but it'll be up and functioning. It'll look great. It looks great now. Just a lot of loose ends. I'm really excited for the students because I'm not an educator. I'm not a teacher that's been working over at Wall Street complex, all these years. And I mean, no disrespect to the building and to Bob Lord and those folks. But to see what those students had to work with and what they're going to have to work with, I'm just really excited for the students to have, a brand new building, dedicated classrooms, nice restrooms, their own cafeteria where they can eat, hot meals that are prepared there, not trucked over and cold, leftover kind of food, And with the reason, a lot of those students are in this program, they've already got some struggles with whatever they are. And then for them to be in an environment that they were over in, how can that make them feel good about themselves? How can that give them an extra push to try and be better? So I think this building's going to be so good in so many ways for these students. I'm just excited for them.
When are you shooting for an open house?
I don't dare put a date on it yet. I'd probably safe to say probably mid to late September would be a good date, because by then we should have, really ironed out the details, really finished putting furniture in place. Yeah, because we don't really want everyone in there when we can't really, shine it up and, really let people see what it is. So I think right now I'd probably say late September will be a good date.
So I don't know where I heard this, but did we actually sell the land behind the C project?
We never owned that land behind the C project. We're hoping to purchase it. We're exploring that.
So when you mean the land behind the C project, we own the barn, right?
Yeah, we own the barn and we own some property up behind the barn. If you were to drive by there tonight and look up there where the corn rows stop and the grass starts, that's pretty much the dividing line between our property and that landowner's property.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at buying more land?
Well, that's part of what's being pitched with some of the ESSER monies, because they want to create some other outdoor programs on that property as well. The C program could really expand further up on that property for a lot of outdoor programs. So that's the hope, but we're not sure if ESSER monies will allow that.
Okay. All right. Because I have a hearing problem, so I sometimes I don't know what I hear. Like sometimes I hear October 30th when it's August 30th, so I had to ask.
Yeah.
Jamie, first of all, we live right up the street from the C project, so I'm going to thank that project for keeping this one super entertained with various types of trucks for the past year. We've seen lots of cool trucks, haven't we? Dozers and diggers and rollers. It's been sweet. And I've been following with interest the entryways, which are now, they're no longer wood, they're yellow, the entry things. But is there something on top of them? Is there like a layer on top of them?
No, it's just going to be a flat roofed canopy.
Is it not done yet? Is the roof part not done yet, maybe?
Yeah, they had to finish wrapping that yellow metal around it. And now that they have, the roofers can now come in and tie in the edge metal.
Okay, that makes more sense. Thanks. I was wondering, it was like that for so long that I was like, they can't possibly be leaving it like just the wood. So
yeah, right. Yeah. So as far as the C building, I mean, again, we're tying up a lot of loose ends. We have a combination custodial groundskeeper person selected for that building. Is a current employee we have now that's at Berry Town, who will be transferring to that building. A great employee, so I'm very happy with who's going to be working there. I know we can count on that person. He'll take care of the building. He'll do a great job for us. So that took some time too to find that person. So I'm very happy that we have the right person. So that's the update on the C building. Unless you have any other questions, I can give you kind of a quick recap on other summer projects.
I'm fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So Berry City School, that large project is again some roofing replacement. In a perfect world, they would have started, a few days after school let out back in June. But again, with COVID, them trying to find materials was very tough. They finally got the last remaining amount of material that they needed last week. So they started the project yesterday. Will it all be done before school starts? More than likely not. But they're going to build it in such a way where they're going to do the larger areas first, and then they'll come in on weekends and keep picking away at it, until it's done. As long as the weather holds out, we won't start getting, consecutive days of rain all the time between now and August 30th. I don't think they'll be all that far off from being done when school does start. But I feel good that they finally do have the material. So I feel good to know that that project will get done this year. It'll be done well way before winter, which means we'll have another large section of the building that now has a new roof that we don't have to worry about leaking and having to deal with that.
Well, that's a little bit better what you thought originally, right? I mean, I think the last time we talked, you were thinking this may not happen.
Yeah. So I'm breathing a sigh of relief now that, okay, it's going to happen and majority of it will be done before school starts. and I accepted the fact that they're going to have to come in on weekends to finish it, and I'm okay with that, considering the alternative of not doing it at all. So I'm happy about that.
Do we have something? We have something in the contract that allows that, or is it going to end up costing us more?
It doesn't cost us any more.
Yeah.
For them to have to do it on the weekends. Yeah. And then some of the other things that we did at Berry City, we ordered a bunch of partitions for the bathrooms because they just were due to be replaced. So we've ordered the materials. Our own guys will remove the old ones, install the new ones. So that's kind of an inside project that we're doing as well this summer. And I mentioned it because it's it can be costly to do. So we had some monies left over from FY21 that we're able to use. And yeah, so for the most part, that's the major projects we're doing at Berry City. Berry Town, we placed the order for the bleachers in the gymnasium. But that, like a lot of other things, even when we ordered it, they couldn't get the materials here before school starts. We're being told they'll arrive sometime in October, and it'll take them a week to install. So I made Jen and Erica aware that at some point we're going to have to take the gym over for a week, and hopefully we can plan it where when the weather's good, they can do outdoor activities. So, it's 1 week of little inconvenience, but the end result, we're going to have a beautiful bleachers in there. As well, they'll have handicap accessibility to a section of it in the front. So that's huge. We did another large area of flooring, some classroom flooring, removed carpeting and put in tile in the kindergarten area. I think it was 4 to 5 large classrooms. So again, kind of keep picking away at the flooring there. At the high school, it was the upgrade in the auditorium, the technology and sound system in there. That is like 95% done. Again, like everybody, they're still waiting on a few more parts to make it 100%. So that probably won't be 100% before school starts. They're waiting on the new screen and some type of touchpad switch controllers. I don't exactly know if it's for the technology or the sound system, but it's something that they're lacking. So that's, like I say, it's 95% done. So that was the large project at the high school for this summer. As well as we did replace some more floor tiles in 4 of the math rooms, which means that math hallway now will be 100% done with removing asbestos floor tiles. So keep picking away at it. So that's another hallway that's now complete. And electric bus update. I feel like a broken record. That too as well. They're waiting on certain parts to be able to complete, building the bus. So now we're being told late September, early October before we see the buses. So it's, hurry up and wait. It is going to happen, but it keeps getting postponed. The deadline keeps, getting pushed out.
I don't mean to sound this negative, but I'm glad those charging stations are going to be quite a ways from the school, because I keep hearing of instances where electric batteries have exploded and burned houses down in electric vehicles, and it's becoming more and more common, unfortunately.
Well, so I'm not sure if you're aware, Guy, but these 2 buses are being charged from chargers that are right next to the building.
Oh, I thought they were further away from that. No. Well, it's just an aside. I mean, it's kind of an interesting discussion I've had with a friend of mine, about electric vehicles.
Yeah.
There's been plenty of instances where it's happened, unfortunately. So.
Well, I can't resist to say.
That's just another reason to sprinkle the building.
Berrytown is sprinkled. Yeah, I couldn't resist. Yeah. So that's really the update for summer projects. Other than all the other things that we do routinely with all the inspections and cleaning, waxing, painting. That's the update as far as projects go.
So are you happy with the outcomes? given what you're taking a look at?
For these large projects,
Yeah.
I am. You know, again, I'm happy that the roofing project did happen. I'm happy that we finally begun some renovations to the auditorium at the high school.
Yeah.
You know, in Berrytown with the bleachers, you know, that was a safety factor. That was the reason why we removed the old wooden ones, and we went a few years without any, and now that we're putting in these new ones, you know, it's so much that we do is based around safety.
Yeah.
You know, at some point, you know, we're always going to be dealing with it, but you know, we're catching up. You know, we're catching up with a lot of these things. There's always going to be something, but you know, we're getting there.
Well, it sounds like we might get a bigger bite at the apple based on the discussion tonight. Other business. You got anything else, Jamie? Gina? I do have a quick question. It sounds like the PCP stuff is going to come back to give you some more work. Is that true or no?
That's what I'm hearing through the grapevine. I mean, you know, if it does, you know, we're hiring a testing agency to test it as the state is asking for. You know, we've taken it upon ourselves already. We tested Berrytown. They don't have any. Berry City is new enough where they wouldn't have it. And Spalding, I know, has done a lot of renovations in the past. They replaced the old windows. They did, you know, the major lighting retrofit back in the 90s. We shouldn't have any at Spalding High School. So we'll see what the state comes out for required testing. And, you know, we'll do it and feel very confident to say we won't have any.
Okay. Gina, you got any items for future agenda you want to add? We got some parking lot stuff, but so let me ask you a question. Is there any interest in taking a look at the track update, or is that way down the list in your estimation?
I mean, it's money, so I have a hard time answering that. You know, if Eddie wants to come to the committee because he's done a lot of legwork and he's got some, you know, big news to share with us, I'm happy to listen. You know, I'm happy to be a part of it.
I mean, is it your sense that he does or no?
I don't know. It's been a good couple of months since we met with him. He had a lot of good information, a lot of good energy. You know, a lot of new names, contact people. I guess, you know, if we reach out to him, you know, and ask him, you know, Eddie, do you feel you have enough information to share with us yet? And if he does,
he actually brought it up to me at a funeral, and I was not paying great attention because it was a funeral, but that was just a few weeks ago. So I would say that the enthusiasm is still there.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I heard him say is that, you know, I'd love to do this. I want the project. I want, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I don't hear that there's any interest on anybody's part, number one, is what I heard. And number two is, and if there was some interest and there was some seed money attached to it, you know, that makes the raising of money a lot better. But, you know, again, it wasn't a formal meeting. It was a sidebar conversation. And, you know, I mean, if he's true in his energy, I would at least like to give him some time and say, hey, look, you know, this is what we can do. This is what we can't do. The timing might be right in terms of, you know, putting on the list of possible things to do. I know there are some facilities in Vermont that have been recently upgraded. I actually saw one down in Manchester. Not that I want to compare us to Manchester, but the track facility down there is, you know, is absolutely marvelous, and the one in Burlington is absolutely marvelous. You know, they've done the upgrades, and I think he's talking to the people who've done those particular projects. I think so. He's at least got some more information. You know, I don't think it would hurt, but you know, it's up to the committee.
Yeah. I mean, I'm more than happy to hear what Eddie has to share. But I guess my thought is, so the month of September, when we meet in September, C will have opened. We will have wrapped up loose ends. We've got that going. We're going to be into a new school year with who knows what kind of restrictions we're going to be dealing with. We already know we're going to be wearing masks at least those first 10 days. Probably.
So is that official?
Well, Chris shared that today in the community letter that the first 10 days of school, everybody will be wearing masks regardless if you're vaccinated or not.
Okay.
So I would dare say let's get through the September meeting with getting school opened up, getting C building started, dealing with what we're dealing with now with this new variant, and let's have Eddie come maybe in October. That might be a little more appropriate, my opinion.
Okay.
If he has information to share at that point in October.
All right. Okay. Are you fine with that, Gina? Okay, good. Anything else?
Well, so what are you putting in on your September agenda? Are you having school reopening update and a C building update? Because right now I don't have anything for September.
Well, we'll have probably open house for C. We'll be closer to that, would be my guess. Discussion.
I would dare say so. Yep.
Yeah, probably an an update on the health piece in terms of where we're at. What do we need? What are we going to have to order more supplies, less supplies? I think we're going to need to know the end game there in terms of it sounds like I don't think we're out of the woods, but
yeah.
So I'll mark that as like reopening COVID requirements.
Yeah. Yep. What else is on our parking lot? I'm trying to remember.
The stormwater runoff project, which if I have anything to share,
You'll do.
I will.
Yeah.
The athletic entrance to the high school, but I think that one, I almost dare say that could be removed from the parking lot because my opinion, and I shared it, is that in order to do that entrance to the Pendo field, it really is encompassed with the entire project as a whole.
Yeah.
So to just do that entrance project for the sake of the football field, again, it's not just a football field. It's the Pendo Memorial Field. It's football, it's lacrosse, it's soccer, track and field. And to put in, it's like putting sneakers on, well, be careful how I say it, but putting ball tires on a new car, you gotta, a lot of thought's gonna go into the entrance, and it's not.
I'm fine with encompassing that in the bigger field project.
Yeah.
So do you want me to add PCB testing update if applicable?
Yeah, if applicable. I mean, it sounds like it's going to rear its ugly head. If not in September, probably later would be my guess.
So I can put it on as PCB testing update if new information available or.
Yeah. And we're probably going to have. I mean, we're probably going to continue the discussion about priority stuff based on what the board decides in terms of the finances. So, that particular piece probably needs to be on there.
Yep, I'd agree with that.
And depending on where that goes, that may be enough.
Yeah, right. I mean, we talked about it a lot tonight already.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a longer discussion. So, people okay with that?
Yep.
All right. If I don't see anything else, Gina, do you want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I can second it.
Nice.
I think we're all in favor, right?
Yeah.
All right. Have a nice evening. Thank you, Andrea.
Have a good one.
See you tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Good night, all.
All right. Take care. Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
No Corvette.